Do you want to be wealthy when you get older? Would you want to have so much money that you'd actually have to put forth some effort to spend what you're making? Of course you would. Who wouldn't? It would be great to have not only enough money for ourselves, but a little extra left over to go around to others. We could be using that money to give to others who are in need, or extend a vacation a little longer, or just provide an even better life for ourselves and our family. The real question is, will you ever have the money to do that? In my opinion, the answer depends on a few factors. I believe that with a little education, anybody can learn to manage their money in such a way that they can have enough for themselves and even a little left over for others. I also believe that there are signs that are common amongst the people who have achieved that kind of level of wealth. Today, I'm going to be going over 5 of those signs. So if you haven't already, be sure to like this video and let me know which of these signs you have and which you would want to work on the most. Let's get started. Hey everyone, Daniel here, and welcome to Next Level Life, a channel where you can learn all about investing, debt, retirement, and many other financial topics besides, because let's face it, the schools aren't going to teach it for us. So if any of those topics sound interesting to you, or if you want to learn how to better handle your money and have more financial freedom, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell next to my name to be notified every time I upload a new video. And if you want to further support the growth of this channel, you can smash that like button if you haven't already, share this video with a friend, and leave a comment below letting me know what topics you'd like me to cover in future videos. The first sign that you're going to be rich someday is that you know yourself well, and you don't get in your own way. Within this sign, there are several traits that you might want to consider developing if you haven't already, in order to get the most out of it. One of those traits is automating your finances. Automating your finances can help make sure that you don't become your own worst enemy and shoot yourself in the foot. Impulse buys are a thing after all, and we all have weak moments, even the most disciplined among us. And while there's not a whole heck of a lot that can be done to totally get around that, we can make sure it is limited. We can ensure those moments don't cripple us for years by having key portions of our financial picture taken care of early and automatically. A second trait that is common to this sign is a high level of self-awareness. It's important to think about how you'll react to certain situations. Without that knowledge, you can't set up measures to ensure you don't fail financially. Ask yourself, how would you react if your investments suddenly fell by 50%? Will you be comfortable with continuing to invest? Will you sell those investments and buy new ones? Will you invest more to take advantage of the price drop? Being honest with yourself and knowing these answers is crucial to long-term financial success. A third trait that is common to this sign is putting a high value on taking action. This one is pretty simple. No success has ever been achieved without action. Therefore, knowing how to get yourself to take the necessary actions to achieve your goals is vitally important. And a fourth trait common to this sign is that you know how to form good habits. If you want to learn more about how to do this, I highly recommend Gretchen Rubin's book, Better Than Before. It goes over how to form good habits and get rid of bad ones for various types of people. I just finished reading it earlier this year, and it's a fantastic book. The second sign that you're going to be rich someday is that you value ongoing education. Whether in the form of books, classes, or just watching videos here on YouTube, it's important to never stop learning. Being open to these opportunities can lead you to discover new ideas that you would have never considered on your own. And you never know when one of those ideas will change your life for the better. The third sign that you're going to be rich someday is that you have a high savings rate. You can achieve this in so many different ways that it'd be impossible to list them all here, but here are a few examples. Number 1, you implement a zero-sum or values-based budget to limit financial waste. Number 2, you use an IRA or 401k for tax savings, as well as investment growth. Number 3, you hack major line items in your budget, such as housing and transportation, for large savings up front. Number 4, you follow the Jay Leno savings method. For more information, check the link in the description. Number 5, you diversify your revenue streams with a side hustle and save the additional income. Whichever route or routes that you choose to go with, the key is to get that savings rate as high as you reasonably can without becoming unsustainable. The fourth sign that you're going to be rich someday is that your money works for you instead of the other way around. This is typically achieved through learning the difference between assets and liabilities, and then buying as many assets and as few liabilities as humanly possible. And for the record, I'm defining assets and liabilities a little different than they would be in most accounting definitions. In this context, an asset is anything that puts money into your pocket, and a liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. These definitions are based on the definitions laid out in Robert Kiyosaki's best-selling book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Learning how to develop passive income streams through investments or profitable businesses are other common examples of getting your money to work for you. And while those do sometimes have expenses associated with them, their net effect usually puts money into your pocket. However, some liabilities are almost unavoidable in this day and age. For those liabilities, you should try to find a way to turn them into assets. For example, shelter is something that we all need. But in most cases, houses are liabilities because they take money out of your pocket each and every month through mortgage payments, utility bills, taxes, and insurance costs. To turn this liability into an asset, you have a few options. First, you can rent out some of your unused space to make up for the costs of housing. Another thing you could do is to put your house up on places like Airbnb to attract additional, albeit intermittent, income. Say that John's house costs him $1,000 a month. He rents out his upper floor for $800 a month and allowed people to stay in his lower level on the weekends through Airbnb. If this brought him an additional $400 a month, his total income would be $1,200 a month. At that point, he would be netting $200 a month in income from his house and would have successfully turned it from a liability into an asset. You may be able to achieve similar results with your car by signing up for services like Uber or Lyft and making money as a driver. The fifth sign that you're going to be rich someday is that you have a very low burn rate. Your burn rate, at least in the context of this video, refers to the amount of money that you won't avoid spending. This is mainly your non-discretionary expenses. Most of us are going to need to spend some money to have a place to live. However, the choice of what categories those living expenses are going to is ours to make. We could pay rent, we could have a mortgage, or just pay maintenance and property taxes on a home that we already own outright. We could also rent hack in one form or another. All of these options are going to have different burn rates associated with them. And just to show you the power of burn rates, let's look at an example. Say that John and Jane take home $5,000 a month. They rent an apartment in LA for $3,000 a month. And their other non-discretionary expenses amount to about $1,500 a month. Therefore, they have a total personal burn rate of $4,500 a month. And there's $500 a month left to put towards savings and other discretionary expenses. If John and Jane manage to save the entire $500 each month, then their total expenses and their total burn rate would both be $4,500 a month. This is highly unusual and likely unsustainable, but we'll do it like this just to keep the example simple. This would mean that John and Jane need a nest egg of about $1.35 million to be considered financially independent, according to the 4% rule. If they average returns of 8% per year on their investments, they would reach that goal in about 38 years. However, renting isn't John and Jane's only choice when it comes to housing costs. What if they bought a house and paid a mortgage instead? Assuming they had a $350,000 30-year mortgage at 4% interest, their payments would be $1,670 a month. However, as homeowners, that wouldn't be their only expense. They'd also have to pay for property taxes, homeowners insurance, utilities, and maintenance. Let's say these costs amount to an additional $830 a month. Therefore, their average total costs of the house would be approximately $2,500 a month. Add that to John and Jane's other total non-discretionary expenses, and their total monthly expenses would be about $4,000. Their goal for achieving financial independence under this lifestyle, assuming they save the rest of their money, is $1.2 million. And this time, since they have $1,000 a month to save, they're going to achieve it even quicker. Assuming that same 8% rate of return, they'll be financially independent in just over 28 years, which of course is about 10 years sooner than they were before. However, John and Jane could still do more to improve their financial situation. If they were so willing, they could rent out their house on places like Airbnb 1 or 2 weekends a month for some extra cash. They could use that cash to pay off their mortgage and lower their burn rate, or just invest. If John and Jane net $100 a night from their Airbnb house hacking strategy for 2 weekends a month, they will earn $400 a month. If, instead of investing, they put their full $1,400 a month towards their mortgage, they would have a paid-off home in 12 years. There's a couple of things that happen in this scenario. First is that their burn rate drops because they no longer need to have a mortgage. Their new burn rate would be about $2,330 a month, and this means that they would need about $700,000 to be considered financially independent, according to the 4% rule. Additionally, they're capable of investing over $3,000 a month, $3,070 to be exact, under this scenario. With these numbers, John and Jane would be financially independent 12 years after their mortgage is gone. If John and Jane add the $400 rental income to their other investments, assuming they got consistent 8% rate of returns, they would become financially independent in about 25 years. They would have about $1.28 million in their nest egg and a mortgage of about $91,000 left. So those are 5 signs that suggest you will be rich someday. While there are many other signs that could have made this list, I felt these were the most common that I see. Feel free to let me know which signs you think should be added to the list in the comments below, and let's get this discussion going. With that being said, if you want to learn how to increase your savings rate even further, be sure to check out my budgeting playlist, and if you want to learn how to get your money to work for you, be sure to check out my investing playlist. Both of those should be appearing at the links on your screen right now. Otherwise, be sure to like the video if you haven't already, and thanks for watching.